Kira Davis wrote a really good article on Candace Owens in Redstate, and I am not. Look, I am one of these people. I'm not a fan of Candace at all. I've been out here. I've been conservative, so to speak, and black for all my life, and but even most of my political life, I've been conservative. And so for me, here's my take on Candace Owens. Candace Owens and conservatism is, here's a good analogy, at least my analogy of Candace Owens and her conservatism, or so to speak. She's like, okay, have you ever, you know how vegans are? Like, they want to tell you everything about veganism all the time. And there's some people out there who have some expertise on veganism. There's people who are experienced in veganism. The ones who have the most experience with veganism, maybe someone who's been vegan for 20, 30 years, right? They don't talk about their veganism all the time. They just do what they do. They know what they're doing. They know how to combine food so that they get enough protein. They live that lifestyle. They live that life. It's not about telling everybody about their veganism. And then you have the vegans. Like, let's say, for example, let's say a celebrity, some celebrity actor suddenly discovers veganism, right? And they are so excited about their veganism, and they want to tell everybody about their veganism, and they try to shame everyone who's not a vegan, and they also try to, and then they write a book about veganism, and their whole book is basically just saying, I don't eat meat, and I eat a lot of vegetables, but I don't eat meat, and I eat a lot of vegetables. And they don't really, they know the basic points of veganism, or, it's I did because of cruelty to animals and that. But then they don't really know. They know the basics. They know, they heard somebody eats this and eats that, so that's what they do. But they can't articulate without putting down people who aren't vegans, right? They alienate anyone who's not a vegan. And so when you're listening to a vegan who's new to veganism and they're really all gung-ho about it, does it make you want to become a vegan by insulting the people who are not vegans? No, I don't want to listen to your ass. Candace Owens is kind of like that to not only black conservatives like myself, but also people who might consider conservatism in the black community, but don't want to be insulted. You know what I'm saying? Don't want to be insulted in becoming a conservative or to consider voting for Republicans or things like that. And Candace Owens spends almost all of her time insulting black people who are not conservatives. And I don't like that. This article really brought that to what it was that I didn't like about Candace Owens. She's like a vegan, a new vegan, who tries to insult you to become a vegan. Well, I'm not going to become a vegan if you're sitting there insulting me, telling me how bad of a person I am. Candace Owens says the talking points she knows that she could articulate, a lot of it makes sense. A lot of things she says make sense. But she does it in such an abrasive way that people who would consider conservatism or consider voting for Trump or consider the things that she wants you to do, Blexit, her Blexit movement. Now, some people jumped onto it, but most black people don't want to hear her. And especially those of us who've been around for decades. No. Now, she gets a lot of support from the other vegans, aka conservatives who have been by some who get around, well, yeah, they like what she says. A lot of people, a lot of vegans like vegan gains, but most people just think he's an asshole. Ask some black conservatives what they think of Candace Owens. Yeah, she says a couple things right here and there, but she's kind of an ass. And I know this is, in some circles, this is suicide, but I think people are starting to figure out that, you know what, she needs to figure it out. She needs to figure out that her style doesn't really gain, the problem is she got so popular so fast that there are some people kind of, and I don't want to, I hate to use the word white conservatives, but there are some people who are very pro-Trump and whatever, who are so excited to have her around that she, because she's, because it's a lot of conservatives who are not who are not melanin enhanced. It's still a tough crowd to get into conservative. There's a lot of us there out there, but clearly it's not one of the Republicans or conservative strong areas, right? There's not a whole lot of melanin enhanced people hanging around conservatives. But as a philosophy, I think that it's better for a nation. So anyway, Kira, I'll just read a little about this from the Redstate article. I think it's pretty darn good. Kira Davis is someone who's been around for a while too, journalist and writer. I've tried to forge, this is Kira Davis, she's a black woman who's writing this. I've tried to forge my own path in this business and respect the voices of other black commentators, even when they diverge from my own opinions. Sadly, I've not been allowed to follow this path. The public and what my colleague Jeff Charles calls conservative ink, that's kind of, TPUSA and those guys, have made it nearly impossible for me to ignore certain pundits who make my job harder every day. I can no longer stay silent, even in the face of slings and arrows I know I'll get for expressing myself here. Candace Owens is a problem. It's funny because it's almost as though Tatum's one of the conservative thing too. I first became aware of Candace Owens when someone shared a video from her old YouTube channel. She was excoriating celebrity hypocrisy. It made me laugh. I shared it also, happy to welcome another black female conservative voice into the fray. The more the merrier. She never crossed my mind again until... Now, I followed Candace from the time that video came out till the time she's talking about here, and there was always something wrong. But anyway, the more the merrier. She never crossed my mind again until Kanye West dropped the mother of all bombs on Twitter, a testament to his public influence, even as some people still call him a sellout. With one tweet, he blew up Candace's spot overnight. He agreed to meet with her and President Trump, and the rest is social media history. In one day, Candace went from obscure TPUSA spokeswoman to the definitive representation of black conservative. Now that she was under the microscope, Owens' transgressions began to pile up. What at first was excitement on my part to see a young conservative on the national stage quickly digressed to discomfort and then out displeasure. I think at this point in my journey, I have officially reached disgust. Now, I haven't necessarily gotten to disgust, although she's very annoying to me. Anyway, some people have pointed to Owens as a grifter. I can't speak to who she is personally or what her motivations are. Maybe her grifter past was who she was before she woke up. I don't know. I don't care. What is problematic for me and others is like me, is that white conservatives and some black conservatives have gleefully thrust Owens into the position of not only speaking for all black conservatives, but for the black community in general. That's another thing. Black people aren't a monolith. Even black conservatives aren't a monolith. And so, and I don't know if she speaks as though how some people want black people to be. I don't know. I never understood. Anyway, I hear so many white conservatives describe her as articulate, and it makes me cringe. I find it reminiscent of how white liberals condescendingly fawned all over Obama as articulate. Like Joe Biden, for example. He's articulate and clean and nice looking, whatever. Owens parrots talking points, some of which actually have merit, but has neither the experience nor the historical knowledge to expound on those talking points. Worse, she does not have enough depth to draw out what should be the larger goal within those talking points, lifting up Black America and promoting racial unity. She is the punditry equivalent of what Rush Limbaugh so famously dubbed as the drive-by media. She pulls up, throws a bomb, and then catches all the cash that rains down in the aftermath before darting off to the next crime scene. In particular, it is Owens' plantation rhetoric that has been so problematic. And it's a great example of how the conversation in black conservatism has advanced while Owens remains stuck in first gear. Early on in the conversation, it wasn't uncommon to hear black conservatives liken their awakening to walking off the plantation. It was a shocking and provocative illustration of how Democrats feel like they own us and our votes. At the time when the new media was just beginning to take a seat in the mainstream, it served an illustrative purpose, but it was short-lived. As my friend Sunny Johnson, if you don't know who Sunny Johnson is, she is fantastic. She did a roundtable with the president the other day, which I should probably pull that video out and play it. But anyway, as my friend Sunny Johnson says, no black person enjoys being likened to a slave. We quickly moved on from the references. Points made. Now it's time to persuade. In fact, here I am on a Fox News panel of black conservatives all the way back in 2013, looking thinner and cuter, oh, time is such a cruel mistress, saying it's time we move on from rhetoric to persuasion, to make the case for conservatism as a vehicle for black prosperity.
Not just policy, but making the case, making the argument. I was talking to my friend Sunny Johnson back there earlier about how it's time for us, especially as black conservatives, to move beyond the race discussion and start talking about how we persuade people. And honestly, when I have had an open, passionate discussion about why I am a conservative, former liberal, now conservative, and I've explained, why. It's because I care for my people. It's because I care for my community. It's because everything we've been doing for the last 50 years has made things worse for us, not better. And I want us to try something different. President, you start winning people. So we need to have that.
Okay, so anyway, somehow Owens has managed to wheel us all the way back to the beginning of the conversation when we honestly really should be nearing the end, if there is such a thing. Her rhetoric is not made up of any persuasion. It's negativity and bomb throwing, designed to rile up her audience. And let me tell you, her audience is not black people. This is never more obvious than when I or any other black conservatives display even the slightest criticism. We'll get responses from a couple of black people and then thousands of white conservatives. I've been in this job for the better part of a decade. I've never been in it for fame, which should be obvious by now, but I have cultivated a reputation and a small following. 5 minutes after Owens crowing as the black conservative, every article I wrote that got national attention included a litany of comments from well-meaning white conservatives crediting Candace for my conversion, thanking her for waking up people like me and leading us off the plantation. When I made a benign comment on social media about it, I was immediately met with accusations of jealousy and pettiness. Yeah, some of us, hate to break this to you, Candace, and anyone who thinks Candace is the be-all, end-all, some of us have been around here for years. Just saying. Anyway. A few people, some of them black inexplicably, have even had the nerve to compare her to Harriet Tubman, which blows my mind. As someone who made a fictional film about Tubman that screened at the Toronto Black Film Festival, I found the sentiment particularly offensive. I spent a great deal of time becoming intimate with Tubman's history, and let me tell you, Candace Owens is no Harriet Tubman, symbolically or otherwise. Let's just stop with that. The trouble with Candace is that her first instinct is not to empower black people, but to indict us. She engages in victim blaming at its worst instead of trying to understand the outrage at the racially motivated murder of Ahmaud Arbery. She spent an inordinate amount of time talking about his troubled past, his motivations, and justifying the armed response of the perpetrators. She spent almost no time talking about the past of the murderers. If that's not blatant pandering, it's at least grossly ignorant. How are black people supposed to take that? Are we really motivating struggling black Americans to seek a new path forward by blaming the victim of a racial crime for his own demise? Seriously? Since George Floyd's death, she's done nothing but disparage his name, gleefully recounting his criminal past and taking every opportunity to loudly declare that protests based on his death, which was recorded on video for all to see as he begged for his life, are nothing but politics. As Dave Chappelle so definitely pointed out in a recent video, George Floyd isn't the guy because he's a saint. He's the guy because he's dead at the hands of an overzealous police officer. He was there, and now we're here. See, that's my thing on George Floyd. Yeah, I've been saying George Floyd's not a perfect person. He's probably a bad role model for everybody. He should be awaiting trial for passing counterfeit bills and being high on whatever the hell he was high on when he was arrested. But at no time does it make it any better that Derek Chauvin did what he did. Even if he refused to get into the car, which he did, he resisted arrest. He refused, when they got him in the car, he refused to put his feet in. They couldn't get him to do it. And somehow he got onto the car and onto the ground. And then Derek Chauvin was derelict in his duty to bring in a man alive, and instead just stayed on his neck and had no situational awareness and killed the man. So, no matter what that man's past was, no matter how many terrible things he did in his life, and he did a lot of terrible things, he still should be facing the justice system instead of the inside of his coffin. He should be awaiting trial instead of judgment at the pearly gates. Just saying. Certainly, some nefarious political actors have hijacked parts of the discussion, but it is heart-wrenchingly offensive and problematic for her. Sadly, the loudest voice for black conservatives, that's the other thing. Oh my God, there's so many of us out here. For some reason, they've glommed onto her. To completely ignore the sentiment and the years of history and frustration behind the protest. I've never in my life seen white Americans more willing to ask questions and hear answers than I have right now. And that is because of the protest, not the riots, the protest. And yet, according to Owens, this is all nothing but race-baiting nonsense. And look, even, let's say it was race-baiting nonsense. Don't you think the conversation of police brutality can be had, even if the protests are strictly about black people? Well, then good. Maybe it should bring some solidarity to people who agree that there is a police brutality problem with other populations, and we should be thinking about all of that, right? So, yeah, that's why I say the protest, whether I agree with everything they're doing, are great. It's obviously the extracurricular activity beyond the protests is awful. But anyway, as she says here, yet according to Owens, this is all nothing but race-baiting nonsense. How on earth does that do a damn thing to empower the black community? She spends so much time complaining that left-wing media ignores the voices of black conservatives who have decided the Democratic Party no longer represents them, but then immediately and joyfully invalidates the voices of millions of black people asking to be heard. It's infuriating. Not only does it make her look bad, it forces the rest of us black folks on the right into the unenviable position of being associated with her beliefs. The left-wing media never makes any attempt to parse out the nuances of black thought. We're stuck on Candace's Plantation by association. Oh, ouch. Ouch, Kira! Ouch! Now, I'll be accused of trying to silence her, of being jealous, of being petty. One of Owen's most problematic qualities as a national pundit is that her constant reframing of black complaints as whining gives shelter to a minority of conservatives who actually are racist and bigoted. They hold her up as proof that this is all just a game and that black people really have nothing to complain about. It's vile. I want peace. I want progress. I am not a conservative because of other conservatives. I'm a conservative because I have served my community, loved my community, sacrificed for my black community. I have seen the destruction and devastation at the hand of Democrat policy for the last 60 years, even though they keep promising us that they're the only path to prosperity. They use us as props. Pretty much everyone does, to be honest. I've looked at the results of 60 years of lockstep voting, and I find it wanting. I believe with every fiber of my being that the conservative, though not always Republican Party, principles of lower taxes, school choice, strong nuclear families, and a healthy application of the First and Second Amendment is a tremendous path to prosperity for the black community if only the messages were allowed to be shared without politics. I believe that black culture is the purest form of American culture, and we as a nation owe a great debt to that culture. I believe that racism and bigotry still exist, and that they will probably always exist in a fallen world. But I also believe that America is never finished striving to be better, greater, stronger. That is what makes this the best country on earth. That is why I never have a problem standing up for the black community while at the same time espousing my conservative beliefs. The trouble with Candace is that she is incapable of doing the same. I'm going to put this article in the chat too. Read it again on your own time. I don't know that I could agree more with Kira Davis. Even if a couple points in there I have other thoughts on, but I think it's a fantastic article. Hey, this is Dawg Knight, and thank you for watching today on the Dawg Knight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterward so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through the Streamlabs link, which is also in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm Dawg Knight, and I'm out of here.